Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 6 o'clock stream. We'll just wait and let a few people join before we get started. You can just drop a hi into the comments just so we know that you're there. Natalie is manning the comments for me the best she can while she's able. Not been a good day for you today, has it?
No.
Want me to go? Or
Just keep talking.
just keep talking?
Yeah. It should be like about 12, he said. So.
Yeah. Anyway, just so you know what we're doing tonight, I'm taking you through the setup of a machine, right down from plugging it in, right through to your first cut, is the plan. I'm going to be doing it on both machines, so I'll be swapping between cameras, moving around a little bit. I have a camera set up on the CM machine for the screen, so you can see the screen on that. So as I'm going through, you should be able to see what I'm doing on there as well. And obviously I've got the DX here in front of me, which I should be using and utilising as well.
Keep going, so he's gone up on the page.
Okay. So we're just waiting for a few more people to join. We are expecting a few of you this evening. If at any point there is any questions or you want to ask anything, please do pop them in the comments.
Okay. If comments go into the group, I can't see them unless I start a new tab. I will try.
There's one open at the far end.
Okay, I will try and operate both at the same time. This could be interesting. Okay, we have some comments on the group, so I'll read those out. Oh, hang on. That's on the wrong stream. Hang on. Let me just keep in the right direction. Go to the live on the same page.
Somebody gone to the wrong stream.
Yeah.
Or
There we go. Not much better, but it needs the help tonight. So it's a quite complicated stream. So
yes, it's a complex setup
I'm
as well,
sucking
isn't
it up and pointing up.
Yes, we have our 3 cameras set up again, which is always a challenge. We have 3 cameras, 1 computer running the software and a laptop running more software. So it's all good. So how are we doing for views?
We have 5 at the moment, and Sarah Lou is chatting.
Hi Sarah Lou. If there are people in, if they just want to pop a little hi in the comments just so we know who's here, and then I'll get started and start taking you through. It's 6:05, so it's a good time to start. So I'll try and get done swiftly as I can for Natty, if nothing else.
Hi Christine.
Christine.
I can't even say it.
Alright, yeah, the other one. Yeah.
Macomb. There we go.
Oh, in Macomb, yes. Right, so, as I said, I'll start with the DX and I will transfer between the 2 of the machines for setup and different things. What I might do first, I'll do the buttons on the DX and then I'll go over to the CM and do the buttons on that one afterwards. Just so you get a bit of a shot on both. So obviously this is the DX in front of me. The plugs on these are much better than the CMs because you only have 1 cable, you don't have the joint in the power box or the power pack, so you have the advantage on that one. They plug into the bottom corner here and into a mains. The cable isn't very long, which is a bit of a downside to it. With the CM, you had a really long cable.
Yeah.
Because you had you plugged to the transformer box, and then from the transformer box to the machine on a much thinner cable, so it has a much longer cable on the CM than it does the DX. But all the same, the cable's a bit better because it's a bit more industry standard bulk as a power cable, so it's a bit bigger.
A bit more robust.
Yeah, a bit more robust. So with the DX, before you turn it on and before you do anything, always make sure that your blade is not in its holder or in the blade holder on the machine. The reason we take it out is when it does the little judder, which you'll see in a moment when we start it up, it can actually chip your blade. So it's always best take your blade out. It's good practice to get into the habit of. So we're going to turn on this machine. This is by pressing the power button, which is the top circular one. Press and hold it for a couple of seconds, and then our green light comes on to say that we've got it powered. And then it looks like it's not doing anything. And this is because it's got a introduction screen, if you like, an intro screen, which it pops up. There we go, so it changes every now and then. So if we touch the screen, it comes up with our warning that the carriage will move to the initial position and keep your hands away from the carriage, which is this bit here. It's our little white bit. So we press OK, and it does a little judder. Now that's the little judder that we're talking about. I don't need that.
You're going too far already.
No, it was saying that there's a previous image when it shut down. So if it does come up with any other message, press OK, and it should disappear. So, everybody okay with me so far?
Yep, no questions yet.
No questions as of yet, okay.
If you do have any questions, pop them in the comments, and there is a little bit of a delay, but not too much.
Yeah, so hopefully we should be okay. So we have three buttons further down the side. We have our home button, which takes us back to this screen that you can see here. You have your mat load button, so for loading your mat and unloading your mat, and you have your pause button. So if you get halfway through design and you think, it's going wrong, you can pause it, try and sort it out, and
put it back,
hopefully. Or if not, you can just pause it and then you can quit the actual cut. So if your card moves and it's beyond repair, you can then just get
back out of it altogether.
Yeah. I may as well do the screen you can see while I'm here, and then I'll come back and I'll go over and pop over and do the CM next. So on this screen, we have our pattern where our basic shapes and all our patterns are. We have the option to scan. We have our settings button, which is this little spanner down in the bottom right hand corner. Our test for our test cuts. And retrieve data, so if we're using a USB stick or we're retrieving anything off the cloud, that's where we get that from. And up the top here, our little triangles shows our Wi-Fi signal, shows that it's connected. If there's an update to do, and it hasn't automatically done it, there will be a little blue eye, or blue box with a white eye in it, up next to your Wi-Fi signal, indicating that there is an update to do to your software. So far so good?
Mm-hmm. I'll soon tell you if there's anything. I'll put my hand up.
Okay, so before I go too much further, I'm going to hop over to the CM. So I'm just going to change the cameras and I'll be over there shortly. So we have that one. Just step over here.
Carefully.
Yes. So, with this one, I've got it set up so you can see the screen, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. And we have a slightly different setup on the buttons on this one. The power button you can't actually see because it's just hiding in the shadows at the back there. But it's actually right up here in the top corner. So that's our power button.
If you need us to move the camera, please put something in the comments and I can always try and adjust it from this end.
So we'll turn our ScanNCut on. There we go. That lights it up a little bit. So again, it has the same instruction as the other one to carriage will move and keep your hands away from the carriage. I've taken my blade out so there's nothing in my blade holder. And I'm going to press OK. And it's a bit more jugged on this one, but again it's the same reason that we take it out. is that at the end of the day, if you leave your blade in, it has a small chance that it may chip your blade, especially if you've been cutting card or something quite deep and your point is sticking out at the bottom of your blade, then it always stands a chance that you may chip it. Your buttons on your CM are slightly different. We have the home key, same as we do on the other side. You have a dedicated settings key, it's down the bottom here. We have your mat load button over here, and then you have your play or pause button that we have here. On your screen we also have the pattern which goes into your patterns, and you have your scan as well. I'm just going to pop the blade on top for a moment. I'm going to pop over to the other side. Back to the other one, and we'll do a bit more on the CM. Then we'll come back.
We're in the DX.
The DX, sorry. Popping
I was
back
going to
over
say,
here.
that's a new model, the CX.
The CX. Yeah.
It's the one that came in the middle.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. So, next I was going to go through the setting screens for you. So as they come up on the machine. There's lots of them.
Do you want to zoom your camera in a bit if I pop into Streamlabs just so it's a bit easier to see?
Try.
So, if you actually... I was actually going to move the camera. That's it. Across that way. That's it. Oh, no, that way a bit.
I'm just going to ski roof.
There we go. That's what
It's lost balance now.
it's okay.
Good. Balance,
Maybe just... That's it. That's better because then the screen's better. So move. There we go. Up a bit. Towards that way. Unless I can do it. Should I see if I can do
Yeah,
it?
see if you can move it just a little bit on there.
Which one you got? My phone.
Your phone. There we go.
There we go.
So,
That's it.
slight change of the angle there. So, we're going to go through the settings screens. So we're going to go to our little blue spanner in this bottom corner. And we'll start at the top and work our way down. So, top one's fairly self-explanatory. Language, you can set it into various different languages, I believe. Yeah, Dutch, German, well, there's quite a few in there. We'll leave it at English because I am. You can set your units, so whether you want it in millimetres or inches. It's easily changed. You flick between the two. Your cut area. Now this goes on the size of your area you want to cut within. You can leave it at 12 by 12 or 12 by 24 if you've got the bigger mat, but you can also set it to a specific size. So if you only want to cut a 6 by 6, you can actually set your area as close as you can get it. To a 6 by 6 area, and it will only cut in that area.
It's because you never want to cut off the end of your paper.
Yeah, so if you know you've only got a 6 by 6 sheet, you could set it to that, and then you'll always know you'll be within your 6 by 6 piece of paper. And you can just swap between the two and it puts it back. Or you can just close it at the top. At the bottom here we've got pattern interval on this page, and remind me, it's the space between each image on the screen. So if you have lots of images on there, it's the amount of spacing between each image for which object it puts on the screen. Our next screen, or the next arrow down, we have the background image. So if you've done a scan of an image, you can have it with a darker background, a lighter background, or you can turn it off. So we use this a lot when we're doing our scanning. and it's very useful if you're looking at something that's lots of light colours. You can use your darker background. If you're something that's lots of dark colours, you can use your lighter one. It will show your image through it rather than doing it. And again, obviously, off just turns off any scanned image.
But the good thing about the off button is if you turn it back on again, it still has it stored there.
Yes, it doesn't delete
so
it.
if you're just checking something, you can turn it off and back on.
Okay, so here we have our cut speed. Now with the SDX machines, I still think slow is better. I always will.
We did a good test, didn't we? We wanted to make sure first.
If you're doing lots of intricate work, certainly lower your cut speed down to 1 and just let it be down on 1, because it's...
Trolley.
Yeah. My favourite analogy is a trolley wheel. The blade that's in your cutter inside the holder is attached by a magnet at the top, and it rotates by the magnet. So if you imagine that you've got the trolley wheel that it basically is trying to rotate, if you're going quickly, and sometimes it's why you get a lot of tears on the paper, or if it's tearing a lot, that could be one of the reasons. So always have your speed nice and slow. It always does better slow than it does fast. Cut pressure, we'll leave it on the auto blade, so at the moment it can stick to auto. You can change it if you want to, but 9 times out of 10 I've not had many issues with it on auto. Cut pressure, if you manually put a manual blade in, so obviously the CM blades fit in the DX machines, and you can set your pressure then for the manual blade. So I've got it set to -2. I think the CM we have is actually set to -4. It does go all the way down to -9, which we have used when we were cutting some... what were we cutting on -9?
The 651 vinyl.
Ah yes, the old...
For the Lambretta.
Yeah. Yeah, we have used it. Cutter mounts, 1mm each. Don't really know what it does. We did turn it down to see if it made a difference, but it didn't seem to, did it?
No, it doesn't make it doesn't make any difference the amount of cut you mat, because that's what we were hoping it would change.
Yeah.
So your auto blade just seems to ignore it anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I'll leave it alone because it doesn't seem to make much difference, which is odd. I don't know why they've put it there. Half cut, so if you're doing things like your vinyl and you only wanted to take the top layer off your vinyl, this is where you can turn it on and off. And then you have your half cut pressure. Now you can set this to auto, but as we found when we last did vinyl, if you leave it on vinyl it cuts through the vinyl and the backing paper, which is not what you wanted to do when doing vinyl. So after much experimentation we found -6 for the particular vinyl we were using. Was a good pressure for it, and it didn't cut through the backing paper. Then it just nicely skimmed the top and cut it nicely. So that's why we've put it on -6. Your blade adjustment area is basically where it will cut on your mat each time that it starts, and you can actually set this to the full length of the mat, half the mat, quarter of the mat, 3/4 of the mat. You may as well use the whole of the mat, and that way it keeps you track, it doesn't keep cutting in the same place. Draw speed, again this is set by pen. Any of you who have been watching my earlier videos, I know that most of them we haven't changed the draw speed on, but some of them we will want to go slower, and it allows more ink to flow through with the pressure that's there. And again you draw pressure, again adjusts by each pen depending on which pens you've got. You can swap between, again it goes down to -9, and again there's plenty of other videos I've done on the drawing that goes through the pressures and what we use the different ones for. So next one, we have seam allowance. So this is the setting that when you press seam allowance in the object edit button later, which I will show in a bit, it's the allowance that it puts around the outside of an object. Any questions so far? We're doing okay?
We're doing okay.
Okay. Then we have fill. So this is your fill pattern that you do when you're drawing and you want it to colour in. So you can set your patterns here. So you have 5 options. As I was saying earlier, 4 and 5 tend to knock off your calibration and it can be a pain. 1, 2 and 3, you got your stripes, you got boxes, so they can quite easily do those. And number 1 obviously is just your blank fill through. You also have your fill line spacing. So again, as I said earlier, the thicker your pen, the higher you want this amount to be. So if you want it to be, if you don't want lots of overlapping lines, you set it slightly higher, going towards the thickness of your pen. If you've got a really fine pen, you want to take it down. And your fill direction. So if you want your lines to go across a 45-degree angle, you can change it here, and then that will change how your lines go across your object. Additional line. If you want it to draw around a
shape
twice, you can set it in here, or more. You can set it 3, 4, 5 times.
Which is handy if your pen's running out.
Yeah. And it also does an additional line spacing on this one, so it gives you an extra,
yes,
a
you
little
can
bit
make
of a
it
gap
thicker
between,
if you
so it
want
goes a
to.
bit thicker each time. It's set at 0.12 of an inch, which I have no idea what that is. In millimetres. Moving down, you have the auto shutdown. Now, on our machine that we take out everywhere, it's set to 4 hours. Purely for the fact that when we're demonstrating, the last thing we want to do is shutting down and causing chaos. When you're at home, if you know you're not going to be using it, either turn it off, or if you forget to turn it off, leave it an hour and it will just turn itself off.
Yeah.
Buzzer sound, if you don't want it to beep every time you press a button, you can turn it off. And the opening screen, I know when I first turned it on, I said there was that screen, it looks like it's not doing anything. That is the opening screen. You can turn it off if you want to, or you can leave it on. As this isn't my machine and it's one borrowed, I will leave it on because that's how they've left it. And mess it up too much for them when they come back and go, it's not my machine. Your scanning and position adjustment at the next bottom of this page is how you do your calibration.
Go on, quickly.
So, when you go into your calibration, it tells you that the carrying mat. So if you have your mat in at this point, it will spit your mat out. So if you have trouble loading your mat, just be wary of that. It will tell you to make sure that your scanner lever is in position 1. You load a mat with a sheet of white copier paper and you pop it into your machine. When you press start, it will take it through the machine and it will cut a it's a rectangle, a long rectangle across the top. So you want your piece of paper on landscape and it cuts a rectangle across the top.
Can't see it.
Can't see. Okay, so it cuts a rectangle across the top of your page, making marks on each side, and then it rescans it and it looks for where it makes a cross on the paper, and that is its calibration mark. Now the DX does it automatically and tries to find it automatically. If it's done it and it's not happy, you press no
and do it again,
and then you can do it again and do it again and again and again. It will get better each time and it will eventually get to a point where you're happy and you go, yep, okay, happy with that. But if you do it and you find that it hasn't done it, just redo it and keep redoing it. It does get there eventually.
It is different on a CM.
Yeah, it is different on CM, which I'll try and
we'll show you on a CM.
I might recalibrate that one just to show you.
Yeah, it needs it anyway.
Yeah.
They will need recalibrating every time you move them, so if you are taking your DX out to class, you will need to recalibrate it both when you arrive at class and when you get back home again.
So, next bit, machine number is the number you need to enter when you are registering your machine on Canvas Online. It's what produces your PIN number that you need to set up your machine and link it to your account. So if you are doing it on this, version number is just your software, and you can check for updates and everything else on here as well, which we don't need to do because I know it's up to date. I did it the other day. And your machine information just tells you that which machine, your maximum scanning area, maximum pattern number. It claims 900, but and the embroidery data of what it can read on the embroidery files.
Now your shape count on canvas links supposedly to that number, but the only time that you should be approaching even the 300 of the CM300 is, you know, when you're doing a mandala at 12 by 12.
Okay, network is our next one. So this is how we set up our wireless account. So if you want to set it up onto a router of any sort, you can turn your wireless on and off. Generally, if you're going to set it up, you'll need it on. You can go to your setup wizard, and it will search for your SSID, which is your service ID, and that's ours at the top there. And then we can select that one. It's already got a green dot by it. If you come back to it and you find there's more than one with a green dot next to it, you can pick the one that has the green dot, which is yours, because it will remember your ID for each time. Then it'll be a case of entering your password, which is usually on the back of your router or on a card supplied with it, and pressing OK, and it will link through. You also can check the status of your wireless network. So here we can see it's active. It's got a good strong 65 megabits per second signal, and it's quite happy with our signal, which is good. And in others, it's just basic information, so it gives you the MAC address of it. If for some reason you cannot get it to connect to your network and it has been connected, you can reset your network settings. It's a handy little one to do.
9 times out of 10 that will fix the problem.
Yeah, it fixes the network. Well, it just basically wipes all the network settings, so it's a blank machine. You can start again with your network. So if you're having issues, that's a good place to go to reset all your settings.
If that doesn't work, however, in the group, if you go into the announcements, you can find our contact details. So just contact us and we'll talk you through it. We really don't mind. We've helped a lady in South Africa for 4 hours before now, so you know, half hour call in the UK is absolutely fine.
We don't mind any of that. So we have some ladies people in the States as well who are.
Yep, we've helped ladies in the States.
There's one lady, I think, who's got an SDX, the 225.
Yeah.
Who's watching this, hopefully.
And we have Erica from Holland watching as well.
Ah, hello Erica. Your proxy settings just relate to settings on the machine, so they're nothing too much to worry about. You can leave those for them.
Yeah, well,
Most people don't play with those. If you don't play with them, then best to be left alone. So I'll go back. So your Canvas workspace, this one's already registered, so it doesn't make much difference. It's basically when you first register your machine, it will ask you to register it on Canvas Online. I will briefly go over that momentarily. I'll pop up into the computer and I will show everybody how to do that. I might set myself an account up, but I don't register the machine to it obviously because it's Jackie's machine. So, and last but not least, the very last on this screens is the premium functions. Now, because it says premium functions, don't be fooled that you have to pay for these things. You don't. You can just turn them on, which is great. So the embossing kit, you can turn it on or off, and you have the settings above. Foil, again, on and off. And the latest one, which is the piercing settings and the paper piercing kit, again, you can just turn it on.
However, with the paper piercing kit, if you haven't got it, you will need it to make it work.
Yes, but you can turn it on. You don't have to pay for the set to get the settings to turn on.
Yeah.
So if there's for things like, for example, the foil settings, we find particularly useful for using a quickie glue pen. You don't have to have their glue pen, you can use a quickie glue pen. For certain pens you can use the foil glue setting because it's nice and slow and it
draws it from the bottom up.
From the bottom up.
So paint pens, for instance, I've used
anything
the Derwent 9 painters in it. I've used the Triton paint pens, which are fab, and they'll go over absolutely anything that you want it to go over.
Basically anything you don't want to get in your rollers.
Yeah.
And anything you think is going to clog up your machine, that's one of the things you don't want to do. And that is all of the settings on a DX.
Swap over.
Swap over. Back to the CM, because I know there's a lot of you with the CM. So I will run over and do the CM settings as well. How are we doing?
We're doing alright. The live stream's a bit dodgy our end, but fine elsewhere, so.
Okay, so going into our settings menu first, we press the little spanner here on the outside, and on this one we have 8 screens, or 8 pages. It varies by model, so just be wary of that. All machines are slightly different. I mean, if you've got a 700 and upwards, they tend to have the 8 screens. Anything below, so the 600, the 300, the 100s, any of the 50 models below the 650, I believe, only have the 6 screens because they don't have the network capabilities, so they miss a couple of screens off for the bits that you can do on there that you can't do on this one. So, going through these, can you see that one okay?
Yeah, because there isn't
Can't
any way that
really
you can
zoom on that one,
that,
so
it's fine.
Yeah, okay. So again, at the top we have our language and unit and cut area. These are all exactly the same features as they are on the.
Let me just see if
I don't think it will.
No, because it goes off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what I was saying. And background, so they're all identical to your to the other one that I've just shown you. On page 2, we have the cut speed, the cut pressure, which on this one obviously we have to set manually. So cut speed on this I always set to 1, again because the blades are horrendously bad for not cutting, or for going wrong. So if you set it nice and slow, then you're going to have less snags on your paper, and it's going to be a much cleaner cut. Cut pressure on this one we have set to -3. The only thing I'll say about cut pressure on these is each time you do an update, check your cut pressure for when you restart, because it does usually mess around with the pressure on there when you do restart it. I mean, we've got it set to -3. I mean, we've had it down at -6 and cutting normally, so it varies randomly between each update. Draw speed again I've got down to level 1, and our draw pressure down on -4. Again, like I said, the auto shutdown we have down to 4 hours, because obviously this machine used to go out with us a lot when we were demonstrating and teaching classes. It used to be the machine we took with us, so we had it set to 4 hours. Buzzer sound I'm going to turn back on because I'm getting bored of it not being making a noise when I press a button. Sometimes it's handy, sometimes it's not. Seam allowance, again, is the same as it is on the other one, so it's a separate button in the canvas project on this one for the object edits. And again, when you press it, it's whatever you have that set as is the seam allowance it puts onto your screen. And Patman interval again is the same as it was on the other one. Opening screen again, which I've turned off. The scanning cutting position adjustment, that is your calibration, which I'll go back into briefly in a moment just to show how it's done. Blade adjustment area again is the same, and your foot additional line are identical. Again, machine information and the number and our version. So obviously there's been a few more software updates on this one as we're on to 2.38, which the CM's only on 1.4 something. Network settings, again, identical. You can go into here and you have your setup wizards. You can check your Wi-Fi status. Oh, 72 meg on this one, so it's even picking up better signal here than it is over there. And again, if you do want to reset, it's in your others, and you've got your network reset there as well, if you do need to reset it at all for any particular reason. And then we have our ScanNCut ID, which again is the one, and our premium functions. Now we don't have things like the paper piercing on this one, So all we have on this one are the foiling and the embossing, but again you can just turn them on, and you've got your settings just above each one as well. So again, you don't have to have those paid for or anything like that, you can literally just turn them on. So I did say go back and do the calibration on this one because it needs doing. So we go into the little spanner at the side, it says it will move, which we know, and I'm just going to get our mat, and
I have a question for you when you get to premium functions.
okay, I've done premium functions, but
No, but when you get to it on the CM, or you're not doing it on the CM.
yes, I've done both.
Alright, okay. Quick question then, and I'll probably answer this one because it's a bit more of a complicated one. Carol says that she used to do a lot of parchment craft, and is there a way of using the 600 to create similar embossing and cut similar to parchment craft? Well, yes there is, and no there isn't. You can do the embossing and the line tracing for your parchment craft, but if you want to do the paper pricking you do need to have the DX model. I've done a couple of parchment craft projects on my 700. Trying to think. Have you seen which video did I do it in? When I showed the mats, wasn't it? And I was doing about mat care. If you go back onto the mat video, there's one where I show you my embossing mat that I've made. And if you use that and just a simple embossing tool, you can do your parchment craft like that. Or you can do it the other way where you use a white gel pen and do your line trace that way, and then you can shade by hand if you have elements that need shading. So I hope that helps.
Okay, so I've put a piece of paper on top of my mat. I don't think you can see it at the moment.
No.
That's okay. And I'm just putting my blade in. It's just paper, it's copy of paper, so I've dropped it right down to I think 1.5 just to cut through the paper, because otherwise it shreds through it like there's no business. I've got clear space at the back.
You will have in a minute.
Okay, so once you've done that, we can just press the play pause button. Sorry, I have my hand in the way there. Is that okay, yeah? It doesn't go right through first anyway.
No, it's fine.
So it'll make a notch at the top. Excuse the noise.
It's when it's doing things like this that you can really hear the difference between the two models. So if you do live in a flat or a terraced house, your neighbours will much appreciate you getting the DX.
So it draws its rectangle, and then it will scan that. Right, so as you can now see on the screen, I have a cross on there that it's done, and there's a little red dot, and you can just make it out on there, here in the middle. Now you want this little red dot to be in the middle of that cross, so you can see it's quite a way off. So you just use the arrows to line it up, and then you press next, and then you do the other side again. It's off quite a little bit, so you get exactly the same form for the left, one for the right. That's better. Then we press OK, and it saves the settings.
Hang on. Whoa. Oh, wrong button. Right. Christine says, didn't make notes on the SDXs have a CM model, but you need to repeat yourself. Which is what I was trying to say to you about the premium functions. So do you want to just quickly go back through? So once you've finished doing your
Yeah, well, I finished my calibration now.
Yeah.
And that's how you recalibrate that one.
I'm not getting all the comments.
You're not getting all the comments?
No, the CM doesn't do a half cut. I might have to go between two screens to get it to try and sort itself out.
Right, okay. No, CMs don't give you the option of a half cut at all. You just literally have to adjust your blade to go with what you're cutting. Generally for half cuts on vinyl, we start our blade on 1 and then work your way up. So leave your design on the mat, check, see if it's cut. If it's not cut, try it again, put the blade up half, so put it onto 1.5, try it from there, see if that goes. If that doesn't work, go up to 2. Just be wary each time you're cutting, you are going to making that cut that you're trying to go through a little bit less between each cut. So which bits do they want me to go over again?
I would just go over the main ones that you actually use on a day-to-day basis. So go back to screen 1 and just...
On screen 1 we don't really use. I mean, the only thing I use on screen 1 on a day-to-day basis is the unit one.
Yeah.
Sometimes the background one, depending on what we're scanning. Just at the bottom there. Again, you've got your cut area one. So if we're using the 12x24 mat, generally flick between the two, just by using the spanner and screwdriver at the side.
And you can still set it to the 6x6.
Yeah, you can still match the sizes.
Exactly the same way.
Exactly the same way. As I've shown you on the DX model. So going on to the next page, your cut speed and pressure. Cut speed is always on 1. Let's set it to 1, leave it alone, just let it be. You're better off on 1 than you are anything else. Your cut pressure, again, once you set it on your machine, you're happy, I would leave it. Set it on a -3, 4, 2, whichever you're happiest when you find the settings, and just adjust your blade to suit. The only time I'd say is you need to change your setting on your cut pressure is if you're either A, still getting snags and you've taken your blade right the way through, or if there's any issues that you think it's being caused. Always take your pressure down a bit first before you try anything else. Draw speed and pressure, again, go back and watch my videos on the pens. All the settings that we were saying in there apply for both machines, so obviously go back and watch those. Seam allowance, again, it's the space that it puts around an object that you have on your mat, and it automatically does this in an object edit button, which I will show you later. I didn't type, God blimey.
Don't worry, you've got plenty
The
of
only
time.
other one that I use a lot is the full additional line. So again, if we go into the settings on there, we've got our fill pattern, our line spacing, and our fill direction. And we have additional lines and our additional line spacing in there too. And we can still set that to any of the patterns, same as we could on the other one. Again, avoiding 4 and 5 if we can, because it really does mess up the calibration, which we've just done. The rest of the screens are purely setting up the machine, so you have your calibration, not your calibration, sorry, your network settings, your machine information, and your premium functions with the last 3 or 4 screens.
It's not letting me cycle through comments, it's been really annoying. Christine, can you just let me know if you're okay for setting up the network and canvas, or if you want us to actually go into that in a bit more depth? And I'll wait for a few seconds while you let me know.
Yeah, we're going to swap back over to the other machine because it kills me being down there.
Just wait there for a minute. I'm not sure if Christine's seen my reply. Networking canvas setup now. Okay, that's fine. Before we go any further, has everybody else managed to set up their network and canvas okay? because otherwise there's no point you going back and going and doing setup. Okay, nobody's saying that they've got issues. So, do you want to go into basic shapes next?
That's what I was going to do. I was going back over there. I'll do that one first because it has more. So, popping back to the DX. So we're back on our main screen here, which we got to just by pressing the OK button. And we have our basic shapes, our scan. I'll just show you the other one as well. If you do have the roll feeder for the DX, this is where you can access using that, and your region emboss, which is to do with your embossing settings. So in our basic shapes, we have all our bits that we can also find on canvas and a few extra bits. So you have your basic circles, squares, rectangles, funky circles, squares, some ovals, trapeziums, diamonds, pentagons, hexagons, octagons, circles, funky circles, the Pac-Man series as I call them, semicircles and bits out of the Pac-Man circles, and lots of stars, shapes and road signs, lots of bits, lots of various shapes you can get. You've got your donuts as well there at the bottom. And then we have lots and lots of different designs. So I won't go through every single one of these because there's hundreds of them on here. But there's lots of different patterns and designs, so each one has something different in, and lots of different designs and bits in there. So we're going to go into each one, and then there'll be in a menu of flowers and other bits. Those are more for you to peruse at your own leisure. Do have a look through. This is what they call their logos. So these are what I would call more sentiments than logos, but they're all the pre-written and styled words. And they have lots of these as well. You can scroll through. There's lots and lots of different ones. You've got all your regular ones, your Merry Christmases, your Happy Birthdays, weddings, and a few funky ones there down at the bottom. Okay. And then we also have days of the week and months of the year, which you don't get on the CM models. So that is one that is just on the DX models, those. We then go into your borders, which is your next one, which is this one here. So these are all the same as what you get on canvas, so all the different borders. Do some dots and dash lines as well. And different fancy, you got a zigzag dash there as well. And a few floral bits as well, a few corners. We also have the text one, so here you can enter, it's basically the fonts that are on the machine, a few that are there, and you basically select that and then you can type your word as you want to put into your text. This one is like your frames and single line fonts by the looks of it. So you can put in single letters. So if you wanted to spell a word, you can put in single letters and numbers. You got your ampersand and a full stop there as well. So good if you want to do an email address or something like that, as long as you don't have an underscore or anything like that in it. And we got some other frame designs that we have there, the flower that I was doing earlier on. And we have some more. There are a few other fonts. These are more just for the SDX, these aren't on. You have your quoting patterns. And each of those has more inside. Has some layered designs. And again, each one has a selection of patterns inside. Different things. So you've got birthday candles for your birthday cakes. And then another font at the bottom there. Other bits. And a few more borders as well. All to play with. So you do get a little bit more with the DX on the basic side of it.
Could you set up a shape to cut, please?
Yes, I will in a moment, yes.
Because I'm just going to do a little bit about pressure.
Okay. Basic shape do? Square?
No, put square up and something detailed.
Okay, so what I've done there is put a basic shape up, which is a square. I want to put another shape up as well, because somebody wants me to put a more detailed one up. We can go to pattern, put a tree up or something, or
Yeah, just something intricate is fine.
or a flower, or let's see what else we've got. Use the snowflakes, that's quite a good one, isn't it? There we go, we can set that. I'll just move it across a little bit. There you go. There you go, 2 items on you.
Okay. So, with the DX, because it has the auto blade, the chance of you setting the pressure is probably quite slim. So, for instance, with the shapes that Ian's put on the mat, you could leave it at auto and that'd be absolutely fine. Now, if you're doing the same on the CM, on the other hand, you are more likely to go and adjust your pressure for what you're cutting. So, as I was just saying to Christine, your pressure should be set according to your design and not according to the material that you are cutting. So, basically, let's say you're cutting something that's really, really complex, such as the design that we did for the Lambretta, and that had really tiny lettering. So that is why we set the pressure to -9 and not because we were using vinyl. Okay, so the snowflake that you can see on the screen, you will cut at a lower pressure than your square, for instance. Okay. Do you want to just show taking that through to a cut?
And I'm going to edit object next on this one, because
Okay,
it
that's
goes
fine.
into lots of other bits, doesn't it, on this one?
Yeah.
And other buttons that are on the screen. So, other things that are on the screen here, you get access to your settings, should you need it. The one in the middle is your background scan. So if you have lots of odd cuts of paper and you want to cut it out of a particular piece, you can use your background scan. And you have your one on the end which resizes your object, or reorganises, shall I say, your objects. So you can have it so it moves them to the best amount of space. You can line them up, and you can line them up at the side. So if you move one out of the way just so you can see each time. Let's get back. Let's put it over in the middle somewhere. So you can see it'll line it up at the top.
Oh. That's your... Why is that dying? Should be charging.
Should be charging. Cable.
Oh, cable's got to be attached, otherwise you wouldn't have a signal.
No, it's dying over because it's using camera as well. And the other one obviously just does the same. If you have lots of on, that one does it up and upside down and level, and that one does them all the same way up, so it'll rotate as well to fit on that one.
It's in a different place on the CM, so we'll cover that in a minute.
I will, yes.
Give the phone a chance to charge.
Yeah. We also have the edit and the edit object. So in here you have your zoom, your undo, and you can, if you're selecting between lots of objects on your screen, you can use your left and right. The three dots will allow you to group more than one. So if I want to select both, or just one, or none. And then here you have select all, which is this one here. Or you have one where you can do it by region, so you can select the bit that you want to highlight, which is usually handy if you've got a complex idea and you want to select just one bit, and it will select whatever you have in that section. Now you have your rubbish bin if you want to get rid of anything. You have your nudge buttons here, so if you want to move things left and right, up and down, a little bit rather than doing it a lot manually. And you have your undo as well, which you can keep pressing to go back as many times as it'll allow. You can still get into your settings, and you can get into your object edit as well. If we go into object edit, I'm whizzing through this, I know I'm going quite quickly, but I am trying to hope this phone doesn't die on me. So very quickly at the top we have our size edit, so this is our height and size. How many we have, so this gives us our number of items, so if we wanted 3 of the same we could put that up to 3 and it would put 3 on the page. We have our rotation, so if we wanted to turn our snowflake round, first things make sure it's in the middle of your mat and plenty of space to move, and then we can move it around 90, 10 degrees, 1 degree, and again we can undo as we go.
Just try and check this. Come up
This one here, which is seam allowance on, and it actually allows you to adjust it on the DX model, which it doesn't on the CM. So if you do want to use it, you can. This one will flip your image left and right, so that's all particularly handy if you're doing HGV. You want your text and your image to be flipped. You can just flick it using that one, and it will flip it opposite. Obviously, because it's a snowflake, it's symmetrical, so it doesn't make much difference on this one. We have your fill options.
You can always rotate it off screw with so that people can see it.
I might go back into that one. So this is where all our fill settings are, and it goes back into the fill. If you leave it on, you'll see it changes. And it stays there. Then you can just turn it off. Okay. So this one is your additional line settings. So again, you can turn it on and off. And then we have offset. So if you wanted to put an offset on the outside of your object, a bit like your seam allowance, but this one just does it generally from the out. So you can make it. I'll do an offset for you. And then you have your paper pricking option here. If I select both objects on the screen, which let me do from there, so I have to get back. It then brings these options in here. So I can group them. We could weld them if they were interlinked, which they're not. And we can use the alignment tools here. So it allows us to align them to the left, to the right, top, bottom, and through the centres as well. Okay. And it also leaves you flip in play if you want it to flip. Any other questions on there at the moment?
No, I'm going to be having a little bit of a chinwag with Carol about parchment designs.
Okay.
So
you can do that offline, though, can't you?
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that offline, and might just do a video on it next week if there's enough people interested, because that's quite niche.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're interested in parchment design, just let me know, and I can always pop a video up. Otherwise, have a look at the foiling video when I do it on Thursday, because you'll use a lot of the same techniques with your parchment craft.
So swapping the screens back over again, and I'll pop over to the CM.
Oh, I just got to go for a walk.
Yeah, no worries. Just undoing that. Get back down. So it's under a desk, so I have to get down to it. So going back into our settings on this one, so our pattern and our scanner on the main screen. We only have one screen on this one. Then we go into pattern. So from this one now, you can see we've got a few different options. So this is where we can access any data that we have off the internet by this one here at the top. So if we sent anything to the cloud from Canvas, we have our test cuts. We have our save data, so for our USBs or on the machine. You have your back button, and we have at the top there our little Wi-Fi symbol that lets us know that we have a decent Wi-Fi signal, and then we have all our shapes and bits. We also have this one at the bottom here, which is your premium functions. So you have your region emboss, which is there. So into our basic shapes, they're identical. Don't have quite as many as the DX model, and we only have 10 pages on here, but we have all the same. These are all the ones that are available on Canvas Online on the desktop version. And again, we have our shapes. As you can see, there aren't quite as many. You've only got the one page to choose from. We have our logos again, which are all the different sentiments they have pre-installed. You have your borders, we have our text, which is the same again, and we also have our quoting patterns that are on this one as well. So if we put a basic shape on, it comes up here telling us that how we can do it. So we've got our height and width, how many we want on there. We can also set if we want it to fill. If we want it kept in proportion, which is the one in the middle here, this one here. If we want to rotate it, flip it, and if we want to put our seam allowance on. So those are our options across the bottom. And we're going to leave it just as one square. We'll go set. And this is the screen that we're presented with. Now in this screen we have add if we want to add another shape to the screen at all. We have save if we want to save our design. We can then select save and save our design on the either your machine, or you can save it to Canvas, or you can save it to a USB if you have one attached. The one underneath is the access to your premium functions, so if you wanted to foil something rather than cut it, that's how we access it through there.
We often call that the detonator box.
Yeah, it's not this detonator box because she thinks it looks like a detonator.
Yeah, I look like I'm about to blow up a block of flats when I press it.
On this side we have our background scan button. We have our shape organise, so again that's if we've got more than one item on the mat, it will organise the shapes.
Do you want to just go into that button and just show the different options? Actually add a few things to mat also.
There we go, so we'll put a few items on there, spread them out a bit. So in your organise, you can have it so it arranges them so they're best cut. It will turn them around so they fit the right way, or it will line them all up, depending on what you want to do. Back around a bit. Yeah, numpty. Okay, then at the top here, this is your canvas map. So this takes you back into, if you want to change things in your edit, so it's a bit like your object edit off the other one. So in here, excuse me, I get comfy. You have your zoom at the top here. We have our arrows to select us through getting to different items, so I'm trying to do this the best I can without blocking the screen. We have our 3 squares here so we can select multiple items. And again we can select all, select none, or we can do the... Sorry, excuse me. We can do the section zoom, so bring it in, go OK, and it would select just the items in that area. Right there. We have our rubbish bin if you want to chuck anything away. We have our nudge buttons if you want to nudge things left, right, centre, up and down, along with our undo button. We also can get back into our resize options. So if we want to make things bigger, smaller, duplicate the number there are on there, and we can also do our pattern fill. Now, note on this one, if you press the fill, it literally just does it. It doesn't give you go into the options. If you want to change your settings on this one, you have to go back into your settings and do it manually. You can't just do it straight on the screen. You have to go from there. If you wanted to change your settings, go back into settings, down to your fill settings, and then you can change them in there. And when you go OK and OK, it will go back to that screen. So you can go back into your settings at virtually any point, and it will pop back into that setting screen. And we can turn it off. We can change the proportion on this one, so whether or not it stays proportionately sized. If it's purple, it means you can change them independently. If it's grey, then it keeps them in proportion. Rotation is the same. You can do it 90 degrees, 10 degrees, or 1 degree, same as you can on the SDX machine. Exactly the same. And then you've got your flip and your seam allowance if you want to put a seam allowance on it. Again, when it's purple, it changes your inside line to a draw line, and when it's not off, it's just grey. Also, if you've got more than one item selected, which we'll just have on here, you've still got access to your weld and your grouping buttons. So this one's your weld at the bottom, and you can group them if you want to using that one. And that gets us to the same point on both machines. Any questions?
Okay. Christine said, could you show how to do easy duplicates if you haven't done that? Which is number.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why would you fill? You would fill for any time that you want to colour shapes in. So by colouring in, I mean anything that you want to have as a solid colour, whether that's foiling or even if you're doing embossing, you can use the fill settings. There we go. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Do you want to just quickly show duplicating if you haven't done that?
Yeah, on which?
CM.
CM.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we do want to duplicate one, it's basically in your object edit. So from this screen that we're in, it's back into your canvas at the top, and into this one, which is your resize. And here where you have number, you can turn it up, press OK, and then you'll have 2 of them that you can then move around, and it duplicates whatever you have highlighted. That's the easy way to duplicate. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Take think you've shown everything else because obviously I was.
Yep, I've been through everything else on that one.
Okay, so if you have any questions up to this point, feel free.
Please do ask, because we've been going an hour and 5 minutes, so if anybody has any questions, let me know.
I'll just finish off replying to this one, I'll be able to see.
It's one of the longest ones, this.
Yeah. And you're rivaling mine. I think that's it in terms of questions so far. Yeah, there's nothing showing up different there, so that's a good start. Okay.
Yep.
So, do you want to talk about what's next on your itinerary?
Next itinerary is going through just to showing how it would go to the cut screen and selections. So I'm just going to swap that, put the camera back on this briefly.
Yeah, hopefully it will last.
Yep. So swapping back over quickly. I'm trying to get this. So we've got our items on our mat that we want to cut out. Obviously we'll have a mat loaded by this point. We go OK. And then on this one we have please select at the top. And that gives us all our options. So we can cut it, draw it, we can emboss it, we can foil glue it, foil it, or we can pierce it. And those are your choices. Most of the times out of 10, the ones you'll use are your cut and draw and the occasional foil glue.
Yeah, foil and foil is a bit of a waste of time because you could essentially do exactly the same function with your finger, or run it through a die cutting machine using your embossing mat, or stick it through a laminator.
Yes, all have the same effect. So
yeah.
It's, so we have cut and draw and the little bits at the top there. So cut and draw are the two that you use most, and I said the foil one, this one here, is the one that you'll use if you're doing things like your quickie glue pens or a slow drying pen that you need to draw from the bottom up. So you select cut, it will process, and then it tells you how long and your speed, and then when you've got your blade inserted that will change. Because there it goes, okay, it's an auto blade and half cut is off. And then you can load your mat and then you can cut that out of some card. And that's how you first cut. And to clear our screen, we can go home. Okay, and that puts us back to the main screen.
Okay, do you want to just show that on the CM next?
I will. Let me go back up.
On the USB to make a bag or something, there's only one on each page, which is a waste of paper. How can I add more than one item off a USB onto a page?
And once it's on there, you can just duplicate it.
Yeah, once you've brought any shape in as using the add function on the machine, you can just use number. But if it's on a USB and it's not locked, so in other words, if it's just an FCM file or an SVG, then my advice to you would be to take it into Canvas first and set it up from there. And then it's a lot easier to do it that way, and then you can just send it to your machine when it's done. Because you want to check that you're not overlapping elements, or you're making sure that the elements are facing the same way, a bit like using the nap arrows on a fabric pattern.
Okay. Yes, no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to press, change height, change the pen. So we press OK. Then we press OK to say we're happy, and then we have our two options here to draw and cut. So our blade is in. We could go to cut or draw. We go to cut, it'll processing, and it'll work it out from there. I said if we did want to foil it with the glue, we then have the option here to go to foil, and then we can use glue to use as our glue pen, or if we want to do a slow draw from the bottom upwards, we can use the glue one there. In that again, and then when we have it on here, so if we go to cut and it should light up green. As you can see, our play pause button has lit up, which means then we can then start and it will cut our design out. I won't do it on the machine because it's very, very noisy when it does and gets awfully loud. Okay. And again, just to clear our screen, we go to home and okay, and that takes us back to our home screen. And a USB cable, which I'll do quickly. Whilst you're discussing USBs over there, one of the things we do recommend is a USB extension cable. Now, these look a bit like...
I was going to say, I don't think we're on the right camera here.
Sorry, there we go, let me swap the cameras back.
Forgot the special button.
My bad. So, USB extension cables are like this.
Yeah.
So on one end you have the USB that plugs into your machine, and the other end, which is another socket, which allows you to plug in your USB into. So we recommend using these for two reasons, or for one moment. If you have a USB in your machine and you leave it there, it will get awfully hot, and it can damage your machine. If you damage the USB port on your machine, you're looking at replacing your entire machine to replace that function. If you have a USB cable, you're paying to replace a cable. These come as little as £5, less than that, for the short cables. They don't damage your machine, and you could save yourself the cost of a brand new machine. So well worth the investment, and they don't have to be long. You can get long ones, short ones. These are a ½ metre ones that we use and we supply, and they are brilliant for saving your machine. They just plug into the side and then your USB slots inside rather than breaking your machine. So, and we recommend those for both the CM and the DX models, and they cost the same for both.
Yeah. And there's lots of different types of USB as well that you can use with your ScanNCut. Oh, while I'm saying that, in terms of compatibility, 95% of the time you can fix any USB to work with your machine. Just you have to be prepared to wipe it and format it, because 9 times out of 10, basically, when it is throwing a hissy fit, it's just because of the format of the USB. So think of that like your shelf storage doesn't fit the boxes that it expects, basically.
And on storage, we do recommend that you save things to a USB or to Canvas rather than on your machine. Your machines only have limited capacity on them for memory, and when they get full they do like to complain about it. So try not to save too much to your machine. Always try and put it either onto a USB or pop it into Canvas and then save it onto your computer that way. It saves space and makes things a lot easier for you to find.
Yes, yeah. The other thing to bear in mind when you're saving from your machine is it doesn't give logical file names, so it's a good idea to keep a notebook with file name references and what's actually in them, because otherwise it's a bit like finding the needle in the haystack when you want to redo that design. We do keep a stash of folders as well of designs that we've downloaded from lots of different places.
Yeah.
So
nice segue into your design bundles and...
Yep, there you go.
So, as a starting point for people who want some free SVGs, there's quite a few websites out there. The ones that we recommend are design bundles and font bundles.
Yeah, both part of the same site.
Same site. You have Creative Fabrica, and is it Creative Market? You're the one that you
Yes, Creative Market is the new one.
Yep.
Creative Market tends to be a bit more expensive, but they do
They do have their frees as well.
Yeah,
so
they do 6 items a week, isn't it, that are
Something
free?
like that, yes.
And you get a really good mix of different things on there. So occasionally you'll get like Procreate stuff, or you get Affinity stuff, as well as fonts and normal designs.
Yes, so they do a good selection of them. Do be careful, there are lots of dodgy sites out there as well, so please be careful when you're looking at these sites that you're not being charged for free stuff, or things that are free on other sites. Try and stick to the best you can, legitimate ones. Also be aware of angel policies on a lot of things. If there's someone giving away Disney ones and saying you can use them, please don't. Disney have a very strict angel policy that is for personal use only. If you're doing stuff with Disney and you're trying to sell it and Disney find out, they will take everything, and we mean everything, off you. They are not shy about coming in and impounding all your crafting equipment and taking everything away.
So please don't do it.
Please don't do it. It's one of the...
It's not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk. It only takes somebody to have seen it on Facebook and said, oh, they're selling these, and Disney to see it and go, oh. And I'm sure they have a team of people sat in an office just looking at Facebook, watching for things to be sold, and keeping an eye out on it. So please be so careful with stuff when you're buying these, producing for sale, or even to give away. Please check your angel policies and your licenses with stuff before you go and give it away, or before you do anything for sale, because so if you get caught out, it's just not worth the risk.
No.
Anything else?
You done USB. Oh, have you done the USB tidy that Carl does? You might have to pop your camera off here to be able to show it. It's on that side
we've done it, and we'll do it in the foiling one, because it's more with the foiling one, isn't it? So
yeah, okay, I'll show it on
yeah,
foiling, because I'll put the machine up on the table for that.
Yeah. So, anything else? I don't think. I think I've covered everything on my list. Does anybody have any questions while we're just checking our list of things that we've got to cover? Oh, I know what I haven't done.
Blade.
Yes.
I was just about to say.
Right. If you have a CM model and you have the blue...
Would you like me to press the blade?
Yes, please.
This could be interesting. Oh, ow.
I do. Thank you. So if you have the CM, you have the blades that are like this. Sorry, I'll put that in screen.
And it's the same with the deep cut blade as well.
The same with the deep cut blade, but they're purple. Please do not move your labels. They are supposed to go past 12, and they are designed that way for a reason. I spoke to Brother about this because there are companies and people that insist that you should move your blade and line them up so the 12 lines up with your end of your mark there. So that lines up perfectly.
If we'd have done that the other day, we'd have gone straight through our vinyl, because that was cut on one.
Brother themselves, I spoke to them, their customer service regarding this, and they said, why on earth would you move the label? They are factory set to be slightly over, and it is intentional, so please do not move your labels. It messes with your settings and everything else.
It puts extra strain on your screw thread as well, so,
so
it's not worth
please be careful with that, and try not to move your labels, and it will take better care of your blade that way. Anything else?
We done USB. Oh, screen.
Screen. Yeah, on the DX models, your screen's a lot more robust than the CM models. The CM models have a joint at the back, over down here, which is their weak point on the screen. So with the any of the CM models, you have to lift it up fully, and then it will release back down. Don't get into the habit of dropping your screen, because you can do more damage than good. And again, it's an irreplaceable item. If you break the screen or you
it's a back to Brother.
It's back to Brother. It's probably a replacement machine.
Or at the very least, it's a replacement ribbon cable, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. So you're looking also at an expense there from Brother, and probably not a cheap one. So again, please be careful with them. try and use your stylus at all times. On the screen it saves getting mucky fingerprints. It doesn't have to be an expensive stylus, it doesn't have to be the brother one. As you can see, I'm using the end of a friction pen which has a nub on it, which is a one, it works both ends on these ones. I also use an old
DX.
It's not DX though, is it? It's a Nintendo Game Boy.
Yeah, DX.
Yeah, but this is now a DX as well, so if you say
it's confusing. Why have they named it after a games console?
Which I use on this, usually the big chunky ones, which is great because it makes it easy finding what I want to press on the screens. Apart from that, there's much else on that, is there? Done calibration, done screens, done mouse.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it for it. So that's it for today's stream. A good hour and a half's worth of information there. I do hope I've covered everything. If there's anything you don't think I've covered or you want me to cover again, drop a question or comment in the comments or in the group, and we are always around. If you have any questions, have a look on the group, on the ScanNCut group. We are there, and all our details there, how to contact us privately, are on the group. The mobile number there is mine, so it will ring me, and people do. I don't mind, but sometimes when I'm back at work after all this isolation, if I don't answer, it's because I'm at work, not at home anymore.
Oh, how do you group to increase everything on page to the same size? So you basically do a select all, so that's your 3 square button, and then the one that goes all the way around the page, so that selects everything.
Yeah.
Then go OK, then go into edit, and then you can
resize it, yeah, and it'll resize everything together.
Do you want to just quickly show that on that one?
On that one.
Yeah.
Because
it's Christine asking, so. So that's the
Do you want to say that really quick?
No, I'll let you.
No, you do that so much better. Go on. While I'm setting this up.
Okay. Me, Ian doesn't want to do it. I'll do it. If you are finding our videos useful and you want to help support the channel and everything else that we do, then you can either buy the books, either or.
I mentioned the book, so yeah.
Yep, or you can buy us a copy via a link in the announcements section at the top of the group.
There's a bit of our select.
Yeah, because obviously we're not teaching at the moment. We'd usually be out teaching, either privately or doing groups. So, oh, Christine, you're not a pain. You're not a pain at all. We'd rather that you asked.
Yeah, so this is your group all button here. And so you can see it's selected both the items on there. So I now go OK into this one here, which is our resize, and it's grayed it out, so you can't do it on this one. So if you have more than one item selected, you can't do it on the machine. So you're going to have to go and do it on canvas and then re-import it back to the machine.
Even if you group it?
Yeah. You might be able to if you group it. Let me check.
I was going to say, you need to group it.
If I group it. Oh, if you group it, you can do it. So you have
there
to
you
group
go.
it first.
I was going to say, pretty sure I've done that before.
So group it, move it into the middle a bit.
You missed a step.
I missed a step. I missed the group, and then we can make it bigger, smaller.
Rotate it.
Yeah, we can rotate.
Oh, did you say about rotating noise?
I did move it into the middle.
Sorry, I wasn't in here for that bit.
We can duplicate it as well in the same way. So we've now got two. Almost looks like a medal. Hey.
Just need to do some stripes on it now.
Yeah, that's it. I'll get to draw that by itself. So if that's all the questions for now, and again, if you do have any more questions, don't be afraid to ask. There's no such thing as a silly question.
Okay. And the plan is hopefully tomorrow, as long as I'm not in
excruciating
as much
pain. Yeah.
I will be doing today's print and cut tutorial. You will need Affinity Designer. You will need a small illustration of some kind, such as a logo. You will need paper to print it on, and you'll need a machine to cut it. Okay, so there is a shopping, well, not shopping list, but you know, your need list available in the event, and just let me know if you're coming to that. And the plan is that we're going to create a cupcake box. So,
All being well.
all being well.
But keep an eye on the group for any announcements tomorrow, because it might change
Yeah,
in the morning. So.
yeah. I'm sure if I don't feel up to it, I'm sure Ian will come up with something else that he can teach you.
Yeah, find something. Okay. So we shall bid you all a good night. Stay safe, stay home,
Yeah.
enjoy yourselves, and thank you all very much for your time. And we shall see you all tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.